Picture this: a knock on the door at 6 in the morning, not the friendly kind, not a delivery. It's firm, official, and in that moment, everything you thought was secure suddenly feels fragile. Your status, your future, your family. For thousands of people every year, this isn't a movie scene, it's real life. And in 2026, the rules around marriage-based green cards have become sharper, stricter, and far less forgiving. Today, we're talking about immigration fraud, more specifically, green card marriage scams and what the new law in 2026 really says. Not the rumors, not the social media panic, the reality. Because whether you're an immigrant, a US citizen, or someone who simply wants to understand how the system works, what's happening right now matters more than most people realize. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Marriage has always been one of the most powerful pathways to lawful permanent residence. It's built on the idea of love, commitment, and shared life. But wherever there is a legal benefit, there is also temptation. And for decades, authorities have known that some people exploit marriage not for partnership, but for paperwork. What's different now is the intensity. In 2026, marriage-based immigration is no longer treated as a routine process. It's treated as a high-risk category. And that shift changes everything. On paper, nothing sounds shocking. The law still says the same basic thing: marriages must be real, entered into in good faith, not for immigration benefits. But the way this rule is enforced has transformed, quietly, methodically, and with real consequences. Investigators are no longer just checking documents, they're checking lives. Think about that for a moment. Your photos, your messages, your living arrangements, your routines, even how well you know each other's habits, all of it can now be examined under a much harsher lens. And here's where the tension begins, because not all real marriages look the same. Some couples don't live together right away, some don't share finances early, some come from cultures where public displays of affection are rare, some marriages are calm, quiet, even boring. And yet, under the new enforcement climate, anything that doesn't fit a narrow expectation can raise questions. This is where fear enters the picture. In 2026, authorities have expanded their definition of red flags. Age gaps, short courtships, language barriers, prior immigration history, even how fast you got married after meeting. None of these automatically mean fraud, but together, they can trigger deeper scrutiny. And deeper scrutiny is not just an interview. It can mean follow-up interviews, surprise visits, requests for years of records, social media reviews, and in some cases, referrals for criminal investigation. That's right, criminal. Marriage fraud is no longer treated as a minor violation. It is framed as a serious offense tied to national security, economic fairness, and system integrity, and the penalties reflect that framing. For immigrants, the consequences can include denial of status, removal proceedings, permanent bars from re-entry, and loss of any future immigration benefit. For U.S. citizens or permanent residents involved, penalties can include heavy fines and even prison time. Now pause here. Because this is important, the law doesn't just target people who sell marriages or arrange fake unions. It can also impact couples who made mistakes, misunderstood requirements, or failed to document their relationship properly. Intent matters, but proving intent is complicated. Imagine sitting across from an officer who has never met you before, asking deeply personal questions about your relationship. How did you meet? Who cooks? What side of the bed do you sleep on? What did you do last weekend? What did you argue about last month? Stress makes people forget. Nervousness makes answers inconsistent. And inconsistency in 2026 is treated far more seriously than it used to be. This is where many real couples get caught off guard. They think love is enough. That being genuine is enough. But the system doesn't see feelings, it sees evidence. And in the new legal environment, evidence must be strong, consistent, and ongoing. Another major change in 2026 is timing. authorities are paying closer attention not just to whether a marriage is real, but when and why it happened. If a marriage occurs shortly after a visa overstay, denial, or enforcement action, it may be viewed with suspicion, even if the relationship itself is genuine. This creates a painful paradox. People fall in love on unpredictable timelines, but immigration law prefers clean, orderly narratives. And when real life doesn't match that narrative, tension builds. There's also a growing focus on facilitators. In the past, enforcement often centered on the immigrant. Now, anyone who plays a role can come under scrutiny. Friends who introduce couples, advisors who give questionable guidance, even people who help prepare paperwork if they cross certain lines. Why the shift? Because authorities believe marriage fraud isn't just about individuals, it's about networks. And networks are harder to dismantle unless pressure is applied broadly. Another layer to this story is technology. In 2026, data sharing is more advanced than ever. Information from different agencies can be cross-referenced quickly. Travel records, address histories, employment data, social media activity. Things that once lived in separate silos now speak to each other. That casual post you forgot about from years ago, it might still exist, and it might contradict something in your application. This doesn't mean people should panic or hide. It means awareness is critical. Real couples need to think like investigators, not because they're guilty, but because the system assumes nothing. And then there's the emotional cost. Living under constant uncertainty, wondering if a letter in the mail will change everything, feeling like your relationship is on trial. That kind of stress wears people down. Some marriages don't survive it. Ironically, the pressure meant to expose fake marriages can sometimes damage real ones. This is one of the quiet tragedies of strict enforcement. It doesn't just punish fraud, it reshapes behavior, it creates fear, it turns private life into something that feels monitored. So what does the new law actually say in practical terms? It reinforces that intent at the time of marriage is everything, not what happened later, not how things feel now. What mattered was why the marriage was entered into. It expands investigative authority, it increases penalties, it lowers tolerance for inconsistency, and it encourages officers to err on the side of caution, not generosity. That last point is key. In previous years, benefit of the doubt sometimes existed. In 2026, the benefit often goes to the system, not the applicant. But here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. The law also protects genuine couples. It allows for explanations. It allows for cultural differences. It allows for hardship considerations, but only if they are articulated clearly, supported with evidence, and presented correctly. Silence hurts. Assumptions hurt. Guessing hurts. Preparation helps. If you're in a marriage-based immigration process now, or considering one, the most important thing you can do is understand that love and legality operate on different rules. They overlap, but they are not the same. Document your life together naturally. Don't stage it, don't fabricate, just keep records, shared bills, messages, photos, travel, milestones. Not for show, but for protection. Be honest, even when honesty feels risky. Inconsistencies discovered later are far more damaging than difficult truths shared early. And never underestimate how seriously this process is taken in 2026. This is not meant to scare you. It's meant to ground you. Because fear thrives in uncertainty, and clarity replaces fear with control. Let's zoom out for a moment. Why does this matter beyond individual cases? Because immigration policy reflects how a country balances compassion and control, trust and verification, opportunity and enforcement. Marriage-based immigration sits at the emotional center of that balance. It involves love, family, identity, and belonging. When fraud occurs, it undermines trust in the entire system. When enforcement becomes too harsh, it risks punishing authenticity. The tension between those two forces defines 2026, and that tension is not going away anytime soon. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. The era of casual immigration paperwork is over. Every application tells a story, and that story will be examined. But examination is not the same as rejection. Thousands of genuine couples still succeed every year. They succeed because they are informed, prepared, and realistic about the process they're entering. The law did not declare war on love, it declared war on deception. The challenge is making sure the system can tell the difference. As we come to the end of this conversation, think back to that knock on the door, the fear it represents, the uncertainty. Now imagine the opposite: confidence, preparation, knowing you've done things the right way. That difference is knowledge. In 2026, immigration fraud enforcement is tougher, smarter, and faster. But truth, when documented and defended properly, still matters. Your future deserves that effort. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and remember, understanding the rules doesn't limit your freedom, it protects it.